Hi, welcome to this video where in each episode a special guest will share with me their top 5 games of all time. My name is Arturo and you can find me on Twitter as at Arturo Nereu. Today we have a very special guest, a person that I personally admire because of the passion and connection that he has with video games. Today we have Clive Downie. Hey Clive, how are you?
Hi, Toro. I'm really good. Thanks for having me. I'm humbled to be here, man. Looking forward
No,
to it.
no. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about video games. I know you love games, so it's super exciting. Thanks again for being here. So I would like to ask you first, what do you do? Where do you live? Tell me a bit about yourself.
Well, what do I do? I run the marketing team at Unity. So, um, yeah, that's what I do. I work with a wonderful team of people every day who ultimately are responsible for communicating to Unity customers and potential Unity customers about what Unity can do for them to solve their creative ambitions. Um, I live in San Francisco. I am English.
Okay.
I am also American because I have American citizenship. So yeah, that's me. That's me, and I love games. So let's get going. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so also I would like to ask you like your story with video games. How did you start playing games? What was your first console? What was the first game that you recall playing? And I guess the feelings that those memories bring back to you.
Well, the first computer that I ever experienced was the Sinclair ZX81 in 1981.
Okay.
So that ages me a bit because I was how old was I then? I was 9 in 1981,
Okay.
and I remember my mother. She brought that computer back from where she was working, and it was lying in the room. And I remember seeing this thing, and I'd never seen anything like it. I was like, "What's that?" And I remember plugging it in to a TV.
Yeah.
I remember, turning it on, and it had 1K of RAM, so it wasn't capable of doing a lot. But just to get a prompt on screen and work through some of the basic commands, the language that was with it, and start to be able to move pixels around on screen, uh, that was magical for me because I'd never seen anything like it. So that grabbed me. I don't actually ever remember any games on the ZX81. I'm sure there were some, but what really enchanted me was just the ability to input something on a screen, press return, and then see pixels moving around. It
Yeah.
was this notion of kind of like power and control over some new dimension. The first, and then that quickly moved to the ZX, the Spectrum, the
Mhm.
48K Spectrum. Now I do remember games on that. So that happened not long after the ZX81. It was their follow-up computer, Sinclair's follow-up computer, and I remember playing things like Ant Attack on that. Ant Attack was just a wonderful isometric game where you controlled. He had to guard against ants attacking the environment,
Yeah.
and it was just enchanting. I mean, I was into these. Um, Fantasy books and stories and sci-fi. I read a lot of Asimov when I was kind of that age and in
Okay.
my very early years. So, 9, 10, 11. I think it was growing up in the country in England. I was just always looking to escape because my general life was just so boring. And, to be able to look at a screen and be taken away to another place, a fantastical place where you were maybe defeating ants, or you were, having to control a jetpack on the moon, with like Jet Set Willie, and you know, and all of those kind of games, which were early either 2D scrollers or isometric 3D games, that personified the kind of Spectrum 48K age. Um, it was just amazing. It was amazing for a young kid to be taken away to new worlds. And
Yeah.
so that's where it started, and that's where I got the itch, and it just went from there.
Awesome, awesome. And now that you mentioned like these first games where we had like a very few pixels, but in retrospective, like when you think about them and you say like an ant, if you go back to those times and you see the graphics, you see like a very primitive kind of ant, right? Compared to the more modern games. But do you think that your brain was, or your imagination was completing those pixels and you were seeing like a real ant and trying to imagine like, okay, this actually looks like a real ant and not just something that it resembles one?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you were immersed in those worlds because those worlds gave you enough for your brain to do the rest
Yeah.
and conjure up, you being in a photoreal space.
Yeah.
And yeah, so definitely your brain did the rest. I mean, it's like all great entertainment. Your brain does the rest. That's why books are still massively successful today, because the good ones paint enough of a picture for your brain to fill in the rest. And so, yeah, it definitely immersed me and took me away to these places, which I craved more and more of.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So let's start with your list of games. I know it was kind of difficult for you to just choose 5 games or pick 5 games because I guess you have so many favorites. But let's start with one that I have to be honest, I didn't know existed. When I went and did some research about this game, I was blown away about how great this game looked. But your first game is Chuck Yeager's Air Combat, published by Electronic Arts, developed by Brent Iverson, which I also learned that I think he still works at Electronic Arts. Released in 1991, and it's a flight simulation game. So tell me a bit about your first approach with the game. How did you get the game in the first place?
Well, look, I left school very early. And by school, I don't mean university. I mean like high school. So
Okay.
I didn't really do well at high school. I kind of couldn't wait to get out. And so I started work very, very young in my life. I mean, by the time I got a real job, I was like 16. And then by the time I was 19,
Yeah.
I was working for Electronic Arts. Right.
Wow.
So at 19, I was working for Electronic Arts in England.
Uh-huh.
This is in 1991. This is kind of a way back in the world of video games. Certainly not at the beginning, but certainly back a bit. And I was in customer service in QA, which meant that I was testing games and also replying to customers who had problems with games. And one of the games that was releasing at that time, so the biggest EA game that released as I was joining EA. So
Yeah.
I was testing games that were coming. But the big game that everyone was excited about within EA at the time was Chuck Yeager's Air Combat. So, of course, when the first boxes arrived, wrapped in plastic in the UK, sent to employees, we unwrapped them in our lunch break, put them into our 286 PCs, remarkably low megahertz. I think probably like 16 megahertz processors. And booted up this game, and I mean, were taken away into a 3D real-time simulation. It was for me the first game which I'd really experienced that simulated flight. There'd be more. Clearly, there'd be more, but this one for me was the one that took me up above the clouds and allowed me to fly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the dream of flight is something that all humans probably have, or
Yes.
a
Yeah.
large majority. And so to be able to experience what flight is like in fast jets was ridiculous to me. Now it intersected with a number of my passions, which was, I loved aircraft. I always wanted to be a pilot, et cetera, all of those boyhood tales. So I loved it. Now, but there's one specific thing that also kind of goes on top of all of that point about it simulated flight, and it just allowed you, made you have a sense of power, the ability to move fast.
Yeah.
When you got down low over the terrain, the sense of speed was ridiculous. But the one thing that I still remember is one of the aircraft in it was the F4, the F4 Phantom, the McDonnell Douglas F4 Phantom, which is a spectacular military aircraft.
Okay.
And it's a big aircraft, right? It's a really chunky aircraft. If you see them, they look muscly, right? And I always imagined what it would be like to fly it. And I remember taking this plane and then taking it in third person. So I'm behind this plane.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember taking it on these turns over landscapes, and the physics of this plane, I'm not sure whether the physics is right. I mean, physics in most games isn't right because actually real physics is quite boring. So, you have to kind of overdo the physics.
Yes.
But the way that the tail slipped out as it turned, and you put the afterburners in, and then the tail would just kind of kick and accelerate forward. It was just supremely dynamic, and it just made me ultimately feel like I was flying an F4 Phantom, and it was what it was like. So, and that's what it needed to do. And so that's why it resonated with me, was it put me in the space. It put me where it wanted to put me, and made me feel like I was really flying those aircraft. And I was flabbergasted with it. So.
And also, if you see the graphics, of course, comparing to like modern graphics, they look different, I will say, but it was impressive to have like this massive landscape. Even when it didn't have like lots of things going on. It was a lot of it was a huge landscape. I could see like these shots from inside the cockpit, and having all the little instruments there was I was blown away about the game. Now this makes me wonder, and we discussed this earlier. Like, Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming soon, right? And it looks impressive. It looks amazing. How do you feel when you see like these type of games, these flight simulator games, going from here to, or from 1991 to 2020?
Well, look, I feel good about them because I feel that the work that people are putting into flight simulators today is on a par with what people put in back in the early 90s. They're representing the feeling of flight, but with today's technology. And I think that there's a through line from way back then to now, which you can clearly see from people who are designing flight sims well. Because really, it's about the dynamics of flight, and then it's about the visuals. And so if you get the dynamics right, I think the visuals can come secondary. But if you get the dynamics right, and then the visuals are spectacular in the way that they are with the new flight sim coming, and it's really pushing the envelope of GPUs, it's the complete package. So I'm excited to get into it. I pre-ordered it already. I think it's out in 4 days. So that's it is the 18th. So I pre-ordered it already. I'm excited. I mean, I'm the kind of geek though that enjoys taking a airliner on a cross-country flight. So, I'll be. It's fine for me. I don't mind taking a 737 or an A350 or something off from San Francisco Airport and flying it to JFK in real time. I mean, I'll do that. I love that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I assume you've been traveling a lot because of your work, right? So you also enjoy the fact of traveling.
Yeah, I used to travel.
Okay,
but I enjoy traveling. I mean, the worst thing about traveling though is just being away from family. Right. But the best thing about travel is, I mean, other than the work, where you get to meet great people and do amazing things with them. The best thing is actually flying. That's it. Is flying. I love it. I really love it.
Awesome.
It still amazes me every single time I do it.
Yeah, and I can tell just by listening to you that you know the different aircrafts and that you know those kind of things. So it's also exciting to hear you talking about these things here. Great. So let's go to your next game. A game that also looks like impressive if you consider, or at least for me, it looks like amazing. I get super excited when I see so many colors, when I see like these objects moving at high speeds in computers or consoles that are like, I don't know, 25 years or 35-year-olds. So the next game is Trailblazer for the Atari ST. Also, it was released in multiple platforms. That's when I got like Commodore 64, CX Spectrum, developed by Mr. Chip, published by Gremlin Graphics. And it's a racing game, or according to the internet, it's a racing game. I'm not sure if I will put that as a racing game, but tell me about Trailblazer.
Well, look, we're kind of going back in time a bit, I guess, because we've done Yeager Combat in '91. Now we're going back to, I think we're going back to about 1986. So so you've got to remember, we've done the ZX81 in '81,
Yes.
and we did the Spectrum, I think, in '84, and now we've done, we're doing Trailblazer in '86. Now, a friend of mine had an Atari ST, so I actually went the other way and got an MSX. That's another. We can talk about that in another call about why I felt necessary to get an MSX and went down that. But he had an Atari ST, so he had this game, and I spent a lot of time around his house. And what just fascinated me with the speed. So the replication of speed in this blew me away.
Yeah.
And you were controlling a ball bouncing down a track, and obviously, from a development perspective, the ball was fixed, and you were just moving it left and right, and then what was moving towards you was the track. And your aim was to get to the end of the track before the competition, because it was split screen, if I remember as well, which was great.
Yes.
To play it with your friend. So you were racing your friend down this track. And the magic of it was the track itself had different colored squares on it that provided different power-ups or negative effects on the ball. So you were always trying to look for the green square, and the green square accelerated your ball forward. Or don't hit the orange square, because the orange square slowed you down, or the purple square, which allowed you maybe, I think, to have a force field in case someone shot at you, or you had projectiles that could happen. But I can't remember the specifics of it. The bottom line is the replication of speed was just like nothing nothing I'd experienced before then. And so, I guess it was like the first racing game that I played, but obviously not with a car. And
right.
That was what was special. It was the notion of competition, with someone else within a dynamic environment.
Yeah.
And that was what was really special about it. So yeah, I really liked Trailblazer. It resonated with me, and it was always the go-to game until Super Sprint came out on the Atari ST, and then Super Sprint really actually knocked Trailblazer out, and it was all about Super Sprint for about a year. But
are you also a fan of like races or cars, like racing cars and those things in real life?
Sorry, do I like cars?
Yeah. Cars.
Yeah, I love cars. I mean, I'm just a pretty regular person. I love planes and cars, and I do really enjoy cars. I've some parts of my career I've actually dipped into cars with other companies I've worked for. Like I worked with the Hot Wheels brand for a while at Mattel.
Awesome.
And had the immense ability to tour around the world, Formula One companies, meeting them, and then I spent a lot of time in Italy at Ferrari for my work, which was great. As someone who's young and loved cars, I was very fortunate. So yeah, I love cars, and they're a passion of mine. So yeah, racing games I like. I mean, if you fast forward, I'm not sure it's on the list, but Project Gotham was a major product that resonated with me because of its ability to immerse me in places and race competitively on Xbox Live against people.
Yes. Yeah.
And then also tune your car and customize it. I had the ability at EA to work very closely with the Need for Speed team for a long period of time, which around the moments of Need for Speed Underground, and the immense work that went into Need for Speed Underground around the simulation of light in the nighttime to facilitate the simulation of speed. Kind of they perfected a great technique to do so, and yeah, I love racing games. So it's always been an itch that I wanted to scratch is kind of racing simulations that allow me to race against people. So that's what Trailblazer did.
Yeah, well, we don't have a Project Gotham Racing in your list, but I want to ask you: are you also like a Gran Turismo player? I find like Gran Turismo amazing visually, but to me, as a more casual racing game player, I think the simulation it goes way to the realistic side that I sometimes don't have fun anymore. So I prefer to play the Need for Speeds or the Project Gotham Racing games.
Yeah.
And
you know what? I go everywhere in racing. So I like racing games based that are on the simulation end of the spectrum and then on the arcade end of the spectrum. So
right.
It really depends what I'm in the mood for. I mean, I've spent many a time in the original Gran Turismo on PlayStation, kind of
Getting all the licenses.
getting all the licenses, racing around tracks in ridiculously slow cars. drove arcade races nuts because if you were driving around in a car where the average speed on a track is about 60 miles an hour, for like a four-cylinder Toyota or Mazda car from the 80s, and the top speed is about 85 and you have to slow down to first gear corners and slow down to 20 miles an hour and get the racing line right. I mean, that just drives arcade races nuts. But I kind of enjoyed it because I enjoyed the finesse of it and the sophistication of it. But then likewise, if I'm in the mood for something like Burnout, I enjoyed that game. I mean, that's a perfect arcade race. It's something like Burnout Paradise. Open world, go anywhere you like, go crazy and jump off buildings and destruct. And so everything in between. I really love it.
I have to ask you, Clive. What about games such as Mario Kart or Crash Racing Team and those games? Are you also like that type of?
No, I think I can enjoy them if I'm playing them with the right people, but that's probably where my racing games passion falls down, is more kind of fantastical racing games. I don't think I'll go for those.
Okay.
I wouldn't choose them. I wouldn't choose them necessarily, but I've probably spent more times in single player modes in racing games perfecting my fastest laps in places. So taking the Ferrari 333 SP, I think that's it, which is a Le Mans race car out on Monza, the Italian track, and just trying to beat the best time in the world over and over and over and over again with full simulation on. I remember doing that in Project Gotham. Was that in Project Gotham?
Or maybe Forza?
It might have been in Forza. Sorry, not Project Gotham. It was in Forza. So, yeah, there we go. So doing that, so I've probably spent more hours doing that than I have in maybe competitive racing games. So that will give you some idea of maybe where my bias is.
Yeah. No, I had to ask because I think Mario Kart, and especially the latest one, Mario Kart 8, has been one of the games that I've played the most in the last 10 years or something. Single player, multiplayer, local multiplayer. So yeah, I had to ask. The last racing game that I played was a Need for Speed Heat. I also enjoyed it a lot, just because of the arcade feeling of it and doing these like missions and these kind of things. That was lots of fun.
The last racing game I played was Forza Horizons, and I introduced that to my youngest son, and he thankfully loved it as much as I wished he would, and we had all kinds of fun with him just playing it and me sat beside him,
Nice.
as maybe, he'd go off into kind of barren areas of the map to try and find old cars in the barn finds,
Uh-huh.
where you can find cars in barns. And they're old dilapidated cars that you then have to spend time doing up and resources doing up, and then they join your garage. So, and it was great because he went through a run of finding cars from my youth, real cars from my youth, like the Ford Escort Cosworth and the Ford Sierra XR4i and the Lotus Carlton. And, these are all cars that when I was a boy and a teenager, you coveted and you wanted.
Yeah.
And there they were in this game, and he was racing them around the roads and having fun. And so, yeah, what a great way of, games bringing people together as well, which is also just the magic of games. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you mentioned that you play with your son, do you usually prefer to play all type of games like alone, or do you prefer to play like with friends, family, or it depends?
It depends what mood I'm in. I mean, if I want to, it depends what mood I'm in. If I'm in a mood where I just want some solace and my own time, and I want to, try and perfect something, I'll play on my own.
Yeah.
But, if I've had a long, crazy day at work and I want to blow off some steam, which I've been doing mostly for the last month, I'll get into something like Call of Duty Warzone and try and exact my vengeance on people around the world. So,
That's cool.
it really depends.
I see, because I know a lot of people that just say like I only play the multiplayer. If a game comes with multiplayer and single player or a campaign, I never touch the campaign at all. I simply ignore it. But yeah, as you say, one thing that I love about games, besides like the technical and artistic achievements, is the fact that you can share memories with people by remembering games. And that's actually how these series of videos started, because most of the memories that I have with like friends and family, and even today with my job, most of the memories that I have are tied to video games. In the past, it was more like playing them, but now it's more like getting to know the developers and getting to know them. So
I think, games bring people together. They can. I mean, they can also, you can also play them really well on your own and have time that's special for you. But they can also bring people together. Which some of the games on the list, I think, like NHL '95.
It's the next one. Yeah.
The next one. I mean, that's all about bringing people together. I mean, that's my massive memory on that one. So
now that you mention it, so NHL '95. Published by EA Sports. The developer is Visual Concepts, or was Visual Concepts, released in 1994 for the Super NES. This is a sports game. So now that you mentioned NHL '95, tell me about this memory that you have about.
Well, NHL. So it was also released for the Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive.
Mega Drive, yeah.
Well, it was released for 16-bit console, so I played it on the Mega Drive. Look, my memory of this game is playing it with my friends late into the night and early into the morning every single day, because we had we just had a running competition going on about who was the best at this game. And, yes, it had leagues in the game as well. You could create your own friends leagues. And we just had this league that went on and on and on. And we'd set time boundaries and go, right, here's the new league for the week. And then someone would win that, and then they'd get bragging rights in the house because we all lived together. There was 3 of us that lived together. And then we go on the next week and we give ourselves kind of rules that we could say, right, everyone's allowed to draft 1 new player into their team and blah, blah, blah. And then you spice up your team. You try again to beat the person who was on top. And it was a great moment. So that's my memory of NHL '95. The reason why, it might seem, I mean, this was 3 guys in England, right, in 1994 playing an ice hockey game. And the reason for that is there wasn't really good football games, soccer games out at that time, not action ones.
Yeah.
There was Sensible Soccer, which was a 2D soccer game where you you looked down on the pitch and it was just small icons that you controlled. It actually felt great, by the way, and it was fun to play, but it didn't really simulate the game well, and it didn't take you into it because it wasn't 3D or even a manifestation of TD, a fake isometric 3D. And NHL came out, and it kind of spread like wildfire in England because it was the closest thing you could get to playing soccer on a console. Because okay, ice hockey's 5 players.
Yeah.
Is that right? 5. Well, it's 6, I think, with the goalie, with the keeper. So 5 outfield players, or 6 versus soccer, which is 11.
Yes.
On a team. So there's differences, obviously, and it's grass versus ice. The difference, but the dynamics are still there. It's fast paced, it's passing, it's positioning, it's great, spectacular goals, and then of course you add in that the fact you can punch people and knock people into the boards, and it's just immense fun. So we found our, we were scratching our itch for fast-paced team sports with a weird, North American sport that no one played in England, and loving it.
Okay. And now I asked you this before, but this game made you like hockey in real life. It made you get interested in.
It did. I mean, we didn't know it at the time, but when you play a sport every day for a year, you start to understand that sport. And I came away from that with a really great knowledge of the 1994 NHL season, and the teams in it. So we all had our own team. So my team was the Calgary Flames, and that was my team in the game. So I fully understood the Calgary Flames' strengths and weaknesses, and the fact that their star player Tiorin Fleury, who's a star winger for the Flames in the 90s, he was the guy. And then my other friend played as the Bruins, and the Bruins at that time were personified by Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy Roenick was a spectacularly famous ice hockey player, and he personified that team. So he was their superstar, and kind of like my friend and I, who against the Boston dude, we couldn't stand Jeremy Roenick. Terrible, And then my other friend played as the Pittsburgh Penguins, which was Mario Lemieux's team, and we knew all of these players. We knew everything about these players and their strengths and weaknesses. We knew everything about the teams that we'd play for practice as well, who weren't in that 3-team clique. So like the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars. I think Dallas Stars had loads of Finnish. They had loads of Finns playing for them, and the Rangers. It's just great. I mean, I could. I know I'm stuttering now, but I could reel them off at the time, and I can still call on them. And it just gave me a really great love of the sport. So, when I had the ability to move to Vancouver, I moved to Vancouver in the late 90s, and Vancouver has a very famous team, the Vancouver Canucks. And one of the first things that I did was just get into and watch hockey live. So every game day, I'd be leaving the office early to go and watch hockey. So playing NHL back in the early 90s gave me a love of hockey, and I still to this day love it. I mean, when I lived in LA for a while, and one of the first things I did was I got season tickets to the LA Kings. Which, people asked me then, they're like, "What are you doing? No one gets season tickets for the LA Kings." They were the least popular sports franchise in LA at the time. I think the Galaxy in the MLS had started, and even the Galaxy drew bigger crowds than the LA Kings. But there I was, top of the rafters, watching the Kings every week and driving an hour on the freeway to go and see them. And it's all because of NHL 95.
That's awesome. That's also awesome. Yeah, there's people. I guess people like me that we play games and then we wanted to become game developers, or that we played a specific game and then we started liking something in particular in life. In this case, like hockey for you. For me, it was kind of similar, but with basketball. In Mexico, basketball was not really popular either, but then I started playing NFL. I think it was not NFL,
NBA
NBA.
Live.
It was the street version of NBA of
Oh, it was
FIFA
NBA
Street.
Street. Was it
NBA
NBA
Street.
Street?
Yeah, I
Because
think
it was
that one.
more
Yeah, yeah.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started liking basketball, and I even started watching basketball on TV and those kind of things, and it was great. And it was just because video games. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the access or yeah, the love for the sport there. So that's pretty cool.
I mean,
And
again, it's the power of games. It's games
yeah,
have the power to obviously to entertain, the power to
Mhm.
take you to places to escape, the power to provoke thought, and the power to educate, right?
Yes,
And because what they're doing is they're simulating something that you may not know about, and so that's what NHL was doing. It was, the designers did an amazing job simulating what it was to be in and around the NHL at that time to the best of their ability on a 16-bit console, and it resonated. And I think there's a generation of people in England who, at that same time, still have a positive view of the NHL because of that game.
awesome, awesome. And I have to ask you, were you working at EA when at that time when you lived
I was,
in Canada and then in LA?
I was working at EA in all of those moments that I've just given to you. I mean,
Awesome.
I worked at EA as for a cumulative amount of time because I was there for a couple of times. I left and then came back. I was there for 17 years.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Awesome.
And I'm very fortunate to have worked there. It taught me a lot, and I made lots of wonderful friends, and was able to work on some really spectacular games that the company made.
Awesome. Awesome. Any favorite game that you had the chance of working on?
Oh, I mean, that's it's so hard. I mean, I any favorites? I mean, Arturo. I mean,
I know this is part of
it's so
the.
hard for me, man. I am. Yeah, it's really hard.
I
So
know. I know.
because I'll say one game and then another game will come in and another game will come in and another game will come in. I mean, so all of them because of the teams, because of what we were trying to do. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. It's hard to just
I
go
can't
with.
do favorites. I can't do favorites. I mean, when you've had the absolute good fortune that I have to work on games all the way from things like the Bard's Tale construction set and Wing Commander and Command and Conquer and FIFA and Need for Speed and NHL and Mercenaries and Prince of Persia and
Wow.
Medal of Honor and many games that never launched. Right? People. I mean, I remember working in the LA studio in the when did I work in LA? Don't know. Can't remember. But I remember working in the LA studio and being on conference calls with Steven Spielberg about the games that we were making with him.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Right.
And
So when you've been told that your idea is bad by Steven Spielberg, which happens, had happened, you and he was very gracious about it, by the way, and told me why. But and he was right. When you've done all of those things and you've been fortunate to do those things, because I have been lucky. It's really hard for me to say, yeah, that one was the best. I've got so many wonderful memories that it would be both. Yeah, it would take too long. So sorry. Maybe we'll do it again someday.
Yeah, no, no, no. And after what one thing that I love about the fortune of working at Unity and getting to know all these people and people like you that have worked on these games, it makes me like it gives me like I don't know, like it gets me super excited because um yeah, hearing that, okay, you worked on these games that I played, and having this relationship with a human being that was part of those games is like I guess like a dream that I didn't know was possible, coming true, getting to know these people. Because for a kid in Mexico wanting to like make games or something like that, it was not easy, right? Like there was no big studios that you could say, oh, I'm gonna work there, because you simply didn't know that was a possibility. But yeah, awesome. Next game, game that it's impressive. That I also will say, like, this is more than a game, like a service or a platform or something bigger than just saying a game. But it's a World of Warcraft by Blizzard, released originally in 2004, an MMORPG for desktop machines. So, what's your story with World of Warcraft, like?
Well, look, so I was now I remember I was living in America in 2004. So the memory about World of Warcraft is I played it with my dad, and my dad was in England. He started playing World of Warcraft before me. He loved games, and he was retired, so he had a lot of time on his hands. And he said, "Son, you've got to get into this World of Warcraft game." I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So I downloaded it. I mean, I knew about it, but I never, it never been something that I'd done at an MMORPG. So, and I got into it, and I played it with him, and he and I would create our own guilds, go on adventures together. He was significantly higher level than me because he could spend more time on it. He was level 80.
Yeah.
And he would gift me things. So he would make me weapons, and then gift them to me to enable me to be more successful. I was a struggling night elf, kind of in the like the level 40s, desperately trying to get high enough to get my mount so I could catch up with him as he bounded off into the distance. And you know what, he would make he would make things for me. He would make things for me. And we'd go off and bond. It was great. It was great bonding time with my dad, who at that time in my life, I was trying to rebond with. It was great. We were rebonding. And and I think, just to not to bring the mood down, but
No, that's
he passed away. I mean, he's not with us anymore, and he passed away, um, kind of not long after that, in this grand scheme of things.
yeah.
And so I've always got these memories of, me and him in the World of Warcraft, being essentially a father and son duo, succeeding and helping each other, and him helping me. And it's just a really special memory I've got. So, yeah,
That's
there you go.
that's no, that's super beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing these personal moment with me and the people watching these, and again, just saying how great video games, at least for us, because some other people might have similar memories with other type of media or other things, but for us, I guess it feels, I would say, like, more alive, like having these moments, like if it was a movie that you directed with your dad, right? And these characters and all this.
That's a great. I love that. That's a great way of describing it. I mean, it's moments that we share together, and we we look forward to it. It's so good. And the the wonderful thing about that game, obviously still today,
Yeah.
is it does such a great job of facilitating connection.
Right.
It's it's a really spectacular game, and on a couple of occasions, I've tried to get back into it, but for some reason, my character, I can't retrieve my character, and I don't know. There's something that doesn't feel right to me about starting to play the game again without the character that I used to be in it. It's very personal to
Yeah.
me.
Yes.
I can't retrieve my character. I should probably try harder.
Yeah.
But that's I've dabbled with it. But it's also I got to tell you, maybe this is telling you too much. There's also a part of me which is I'm kind of glad I can't get back into it because I can't play with my dad anymore. So
Mhm,
that
mhm.
yeah, maybe it's probably best that I don't get back into it. But
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I've returned to some games that I had like another idea of them because let's say I played them 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and then I revisit them, and then I notice like, okay, yeah, no, I wish I didn't
yeah,
have done that because yeah, it changed things. So
yeah.
yeah, and it's a personal thing, right? Like you can choose not to play, and that's totally fine. And I also want to briefly, or I want to ask you, like World of Warcraft. I was mentioning before that it's been live for 16 years, and I've seen other games or games that are becoming a similar thing, right? Like a game that is not just released to be played for a couple of months and then next game is more like we're seeing these platforms that are designed to be alive for, I don't know, decades or whatever. What's your take on those type of experiences? Like, you like those things that are like long
You mean do I
experiences?
like? I mean, yeah, I love it. I mean, so first of all, congratulations to the game developers to be able to create kind of
Right.
evergreen services that stand the test of time. I mean, basically, it happens in every piece of entertainment. You know, if you think about, there are movies that stand the test of time, like The Godfather, like The Shawshank Redemption.
Mhm.
You know, we can go through it, like Aliens.
Yeah.
Very subjective, but people might not agree with me on all of those things. But you know, there's movies that stand the test of time. There's music that stands the test of time. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if you listen to the Beatles today, you don't listen to the Beatles and go, "Oh, that sounds so 1960s." You know, you just listen to the Beatles and it's like, yeah, that works. You
Yeah.
know, the orchestration works, the lyrics work, the feeling it brings to you works. And so it's just natural that in games, there are games that stand the test of time, right?
Yeah.
And those games stand the test of time because they just do something so well. The collection of the world and how it's simulated, the collection of the interaction that the world uh, forces and allows between humans,
Mhm.
right, and or the avatars of humans in the world, the competition, the cooperation, the challenge, just the immersion of them, they stand the test of time. So, for me, it's natural that there are games that do that, and there are more and more of them happening as the industry matures and
Mhm.
the art form, of game making becomes something where it is possible to make evergreen entertainment that will never go away. So it's good to see that. It's good to see that because it shows it's just another indicator that game making and the games category is a real entertainment form.
And I also have to say, and this is of course not a commercial, but thanks to tools or to ecosystems such as Unity, this is now available for more people because making these type of games that require like an infrastructure, that require like visuals and require so many things, it's hard, right? Like it's not something that in the past anyone could do. You require a lot of knowledge, you require a lot of time, and thanks to where the game dev or game yeah the game ecosystem is now, that's available for smaller teams or for other people who can take their vision into these worlds that are gonna be living for long.
I agree. I mean, the the accessibility of technologies and platforms to allow you to bring your ideas to life is ensuring that people with ideas, they're able to share them now with others rather than them always staying in their minds and never seeing the light of day.
Yeah.
So, something like Unity definitely empowers that, which is one of its immense strengths. Uh,
Yes.
just one of many immense
One.
strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're about to wrap up. We're almost there now, and no video podcast or video show with a guy from Mexico and one from England will be complete without a soccer game, right? This is not a soccer game that I'm a fan of. I love all soccer games, And I've been playing some like more arcade type of games, but I've never been hooked into like a simulation. I guess that's the genre. But in this case, it's Top 11 Football Manager. You mentioned that on mobile devices, developed by Nordeus, released in 2011 for mobile platforms. It's sport and management. So you love soccer or you love football, right? Because we can also call the sport football, not necessarily soccer. To
Yeah,
me,
let's
it's
call
also
it
football.
for the purposes of this. Let's call it.
Yeah. So you love football.
I do. I love football. I watch it probably far too much,
Okay.
and yeah, I love it.
Awesome.
I love
And
playing it with my sons. Used to love playing it. Kind of, I was never very good at it, but I love playing it. So yeah, I love it.
awesome. May I ask how many sons do you have?
Well, I have 4 children.
Okay.
I have three boys and a daughter.
Okay. Okay. So you also use football to bond with them and play
Yeah,
and do
I
an
mean,
activity.
very important. My daughter loves playing football as well, so it's not just about boys. But she's and she can teach the boys a thing or two about with the skills. So
Awesome. So I assume that your love for football made you like soccer, football games such as FIFA and Pro Evolution Soccer and Top 11 Football Manager. But why did you choose Top 11 in particular?
well, I was choosing games which I have resonated with me, and frankly, I also wanted to change a game which I spend a lot of time on and play right now,
Yeah.
and have done, and for the last 5 years, 6 years, and Top 11 is probably consumed as much of my time as any other game over the last 5 years.
Awesome.
It is a manager game. It's on phone.
Mhm.
It actually doesn't have real players in it. It has made up players.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a very clever game that is perfectly designed for kind of the pace of the amount of time that you have on mobile game sessions.
Mhm.
So it it's season based. Every season is 30 days, so there's a new season every 30 days, and within that season, there's a league competition where you will have a game to play generally every day. There's a cup competition which allows you to kind of compete for a knockout. There's a Champions League competition. Then there's sub competitions, and so you if you're in all of those competitions and you're doing well, you can probably have about 3 to 4 games a day.
Yeah.
Now the games themselves, again, because you're a manager, you set your team up by setting the right formation, by setting the right attitude and morale, by training your players. And then when the game comes, you just turn up and watch the game play itself. It's a simulation.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
don't, it's not an action game. You don't control. Now you can change the different formations and you can change the attacking bias or defending bias, etc. But the simulation happens on the cloud. You watch it in semi-real time. There might be
Yeah.
some highlights, and it's amazing how drawn into that moment you are because you've invested so much time in your team that for that brief 5 minutes when you're watching players kind of icons move around a pitch,
Yeah.
you see yourself down there. You've mapped faces and personalities onto the players, and so you can see the game playing out. Again, it's a great exercise in giving just the bare minimum of visuals, but yet allowing your brain to do the rest because you've invested a lot in the management of this team. And then lastly, one of the special things about it is the transfers, because there's auctions in it. You actually go up against real players, real other players in live auctions for the players in the game to make your squad better. So you might say, I'm here's a list of players that I can bid against other users against. I want a new striker. I want this striker, and you might find yourself bidding in real time against someone from Singapore, someone from Mexico, someone from Germany, and you're all trying to outbid each other for this player, and you know what they're going to bring to your squad, and so that gives another sense of energy. So so it's a very clever game that has been supremely well designed, and I respect that, and it drags me in. So I love it. And actually, I have a game in 10 minutes, so I'm looking at it now, and I'm already thinking, you can't probably see
Great.
it. You can't. So
Uh,
I have a game in 10 minutes, and
yeah.
I'm already thinking that I need to win this game to win the league. So
Yeah,
I'm in.
I saw you tweeting yesterday that you won. I guess it
Well,
was like a,
I had a match for the Super Cup, I
uh-huh,
think, which is essentially the game's version of the Europa League. It's the league below the Champions League, because I got
yeah.
kicked out the Champions League because I finished third in my group. So I had a game for the Super Cup and the Super League, and it was the final, and I won it. I won it, and so yeah, I won that trophy. That's the second season in a row I've won that trophy, which is great. And I'm in pole position as well in the league, and I'm 9 points ahead in the league, and there's only 6 points left because there's 2 games to play. So I've won the league as well. That's the first time I've won the league in about a year and a half.
Awesome.
So in about 18 different seasons, because one's every month. So I'm very happy with my performance. So
That's awesome.
As you can tell.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and again, it's great to hear you being so passionate about games, about the sports, about the mix of games and the real life things that you like. And I have to ask you, Clive, what team do you cheer for in real life?
Well, the one and only, the Manchester United.
Okay.
That's I've been a supporter of Manchester United since I was 11. Not because I'm from Manchester. It was one of those wonderful moments, I guess, when because I'm from an area in England when there isn't a great team, right?
Okay.
So you have to glom on to a great team if you want to, and so it was one of those great moments where my best friend was a Manchester United fan, so I was a Manchester United fan. So that's why. But I've been, it's been that way for like 30 years.
Okay.
More.
That's awesome. Actually, just to wrap up, I have I guess a fun memory. I got the chance to go to London this year in January before the world went to into flames, and I remember I used to play Pro Evolution Soccer without the official like brands or leagues or anything, and there was this team called North London that I was I played with North London because I like the outfits and all those things. And then I learned that it's called North London because there's there's a real team from the northern part of London, and they didn't have the name, and they just decided, and which is Arsenal, right?
It's Arsenal. It's Arsenal.
Which they didn't have the rights to buy the Arsenal, so they called it North London. And I kind of assumed that it was Arsenal because I cheer for Arsenal, for the Arsenal in the English league. But yeah, it was fun to see that there was a reason, and I guess it was pretty obvious. But yeah, it was just fun to learn that thing.
It's fun to learn it, right? I mean, that again, that's the wonder of games. Is you had a game which you love to play, which had a simulation in of a real club, and it brought you closer to the sport and that club. And again, that's one of the powers of games. So I love that. I mean, it's unfortunate that you're an Arsenal fan. I'm sorry about that, but that's that's life. And they're a great team. I can't take anything away from them. I remember we FIFA. I had again the just luck of working on FIFA for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the dark days when FIFA wasn't as good as it is now, and Pro Evolution Soccer had kind of the critical acclaim because of its control, and its simulation. And the FIFA team did such a great job of essentially taking a year off and re-architecting the simulation back in 2005, and that was a great highlight that we worked on. I remember that, and kind of bringing FIFA back. The year before that, actually, in 2004, I remember for FIFA we worked a lot with Thierry Henry, who was at Arsenal at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. I actually remember meeting Thierry Henry. We did an advertising shoot with for FIFA 2004, I think, might be FIFA 2005, with Thierry Henry, Ronaldinho, and Alessandro Del Piero.
Nice.
So we had all three of them in a warehouse in North London,
Uh-huh.
in the ad for FIFA, and that was great. I mean, they were wonderful people. So again, it's just video games have given me the opportunity to not just enjoy them as a player and change my life in that way, but they've also given me the opportunity for kind of my life and the memories that I have of working with them, which are really spectacular. So I'm just really lucky to be around this space and in some small way contribute to it.
Totally. And I feel the same way. I feel like super lucky, super privileged to be part of the industry in multiple ways. First, as a game developer, now helping game developers to be successful. But it's great that we have the opportunity to do what we love for work, and then to also do what we love in our free time, which is games and those kind of things. So it's great. It's amazing. And I just to wrap up, Clive, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me. It was wonderful. It's great. I have a big admiration for you, for the way you show your passion for what you do. So I really appreciate it, and I feel humbled, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, look, the thanks is back to you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for allowing me to talk at you for so long. And it was a real pleasure. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. And one last thing, if people want to follow you, if people want to just see what you do, what's the best place to do that?
I would say the best place to do that is if you want to follow me for some strange reason, then my Twitter handle is at Clive Downie. It's very, very simple.
Awesome. I'll put that in the description below. And thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Bye.
You too. Thanks a lot, man. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.